Imagine a moment on live TV so intense, the entire room goes silent. A Hollywood legend, Al Pacino, faces one of the most famous hosts on daytime television, Joy Behar. What started as a simple question quickly turned into a jaw-dropping confrontation. Words were said, eyes locked, and in a moment no one expected, Pacino fires back, leaving Joy completely speechless. Stay tuned, because you're about to witness one of the most unforgettable moments in TV history. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Now let's dive into what really happened. Imagine sitting in a television studio, live on air, with millions of viewers watching around the world, and suddenly, the air feels heavier, almost electric. That's exactly what happened when Hollywood legend Al Pacino stepped onto the set of The View and faced one of the show's most iconic hosts, Joy Behar. What was supposed to be a fun, light-hearted interview quickly transformed into a tense and unforgettable showdown, the kind of moment that makes live television history. The audience was buzzing with excitement as the cameras rolled. Pacino, dressed in his classic understated style, exuded calm authority, his eyes scanning the room with the intensity only a true legend could carry. Across from him, Joy Behar leaned forward with her usual mischievous smile, confident in her ability to steer the conversation with humor and charm. The energy in the room was palpable. Viewers at home could feel it through their screens. Everyone assumed it would be another celebrity chat, funny anecdotes, a few jokes, and applause. But no one was prepared for what came next. As the discussion began, Joy tossed a question that seemed innocent at first, delivered with a teasing grin. Pacino, however, didn't respond with a laugh or a casual remark. Instead, he paused, his piercing eyes locking onto hers, and the room seemed to fall silent. You could almost hear a pin drop as the tension built. The audience, previously chatting and clapping, suddenly leaned in, sensing something extraordinary was about to happen. Then, with a calm but commanding tone that could fill a theater, Pacino spoke. Sometimes, it's not just about what's funny. It's about what's real. The words struck like lightning. The room seemed to freeze. Even the co-hosts exchanged glances, unsure how to react. Joy's smile faltered for just a moment, a rare crack in her usual confident demeanor. The live audience, caught between shock and awe, could hardly believe what they had just heard. It wasn't anger or aggression that Pacino delivered. It was something far more powerful, truth. Pacino's delivery was precise, his timing impeccable. Every word carried weight. He wasn't just defending himself. He was making a statement about respect, authenticity, and the fine line between humor and offense. It was clear that this was no ordinary interview. The casual banter that had started the show had disappeared entirely, replaced by a palpable tension that had everyone at the edge of their seats. For a moment, it felt like time had slowed. The usual hustle of a live TV show, the laughter, the applause, the camera pans, faded into the background. All eyes were on Pacino, and in that silence, something remarkable happened. The room recognized the presence of a true Hollywood icon, a man whose career had been built on mastery of his craft, not just on fame. His words weren't just spoken, they resonated. Even those watching at home could feel the energy. Social media would later explode with clips of the moment, viewers sharing their disbelief. Did Al Pacino just do that live? Or Joy Behar left speechless? Wow. But in the studio in real time, it was a raw, human moment. A legendary actor meeting a celebrity host in a battle of wits, tension, and principle, and holding the room in the palm of his hand. By the end of Pacino's line, it was clear. The stage had shifted. The interview was no longer about small talk or jokes. It was a moment that commanded attention, a reminder of why Al Pacino is considered one of the greatest actors of all time, not just for his roles, but for his presence, his gravitas, and the respect he commands with every word. And just like that, the show had delivered one of the most shocking, talked about live television moments in history, a moment that would be replayed, dissected, and remembered for years to come. If you want, I can expand the entire story to a full 900-word version in the same cinematic, YouTube-friendly style, keeping all 5 sections strong and engaging. Do you want me to do that next? You said, Section 2, the unexpected question. The tension on the set had barely begun to simmer when Joy Behar, known for her razor-sharp wit and playful banter, decided to turn up the heat. With her trademark mischievous grin, she leaned forward, microphone in hand, and posed a question that seemed casual at first, but carried an undercurrent of challenge. "Mr. Pacino," she began, her voice playful but pointed, "after decades in Hollywood, don't you ever feel like you've lost touch with reality?" A ripple ran through the live audience. Nervous chuckles echoed across the studio, as if the viewers were collectively holding their breath, waiting to see whether the legendary actor would react with his famously intense temper. Pacino, however, did not respond in anger. He didn't flinch, nor did he give the audience the theatrical outburst many expected from a man of his stature. Instead, he leaned back slightly, letting his eyes lock onto Joy Behar's, and took a long, deliberate breath. It was a pause loaded with meaning. The room seemed to shrink around him. The usual chatter of a live television audience disappeared into silence, replaced by a heavy anticipation. Every eye in the studio and millions more at home were now on Pacino. Then, in that measured, almost serene tone that only someone with decades of experience commanding attention could master, he began to speak. "You know," he said slowly, "reality isn't what we see on a screen or what someone else thinks of us. It's what we carry inside. And some truths aren't meant for jokes." The effect was instantaneous. The room froze. Co-hosts, producers, and camera operators alike felt the weight of his words. The playful energy that Joy had brought to the table was suddenly replaced by a palpable gravity. The audience, expecting a quick comeback or a laugh, was left hanging on every syllable. Joy Behar's smile, her usual armor of humor, faltered for the first time in the live broadcast. She opened her mouth to respond, perhaps to deflect or redirect the conversation, but nothing came out. Pacino's words had cut through the layers of banter, leaving a moment of raw, unfiltered silence that seemed to stretch for an eternity. It wasn't aggression that Pacino projected, it was authority, combined with authenticity. Every word resonated with the weight of someone who had lived a life full of triumphs, mistakes, and lessons learned the hard way. In just a few lines, he reminded everyone present that respect and truth are far more powerful than jokes or casual mockery. As the seconds ticked by, the energy in the studio shifted. What had begun as a seemingly harmless question had transformed into a profound moment of reflection. The audience could feel it in the air. This wasn't just a television interview. It was a lesson in composure, in owning your truth, and in demonstrating that words, when chosen carefully, carry power beyond measure. Even viewers at home felt the impact. Social media lit up almost immediately, with clips and reactions spreading like wildfire. Comments poured in. "Pacino just schooled Joy live, and the calmness and authority in his voice is unbelievable." The world had witnessed a rare side of the Hollywood icon, a man who doesn't need to shout to command respect. For Joy Behar, the moment was humbling. Her quick wit and humor, usually her strongest tools, were no match for the subtle intensity and gravitas of Pacino. She had underestimated the quiet force of a legend who spoke with purpose, not performance. In that instant, the balance of power in the room shifted. The playful dynamic of the interview had vanished, replaced by a tension that was electric, unforgettable, and historic. Pacino had reminded everyone why he was not just a celebrated actor, but a commanding presence, someone whose words, delivered at the right time, could stop an audience in their tracks. This wasn't just a conversation. It was a statement. And by the time the room began to breathe again, it was clear that this was a moment no one would ever forget, a testament to the fact that sometimes the quietest words leave the loudest impression. For a moment, it felt like the studio itself was holding its breath. The tension in the room was so thick, it was almost visible. Cameras captured every subtle gesture, every flicker of emotion across the faces of the hosts and audience. The usual energy of a daytime talk show, laughter, clapping, light chatter, had vanished entirely. What was supposed to be an ordinary interview had transformed into a high-stakes, electric standoff between two formidable personalities. Even the co-hosts, seasoned professionals who had seen countless celebrity interviews, looked visibly taken aback. Their eyes darted between Pacino and Joy Behar, trying to gauge what would happen next. Social media users watching from home sensed the gravity of the moment immediately. Tweets, Instagram stories, and TikTok clips began popping up almost instantly, with captions like, "Al Pacino just shut down Joy Behar live," and "Historic TV moment unfolding." It was as if the world collectively leaned in, holding its breath alongside the studio audience. Joy, ever the quick-witted host, attempted to regain control of the conversation. With a light-hearted chuckle, she tried to steer the dialogue back toward humor, hoping to diffuse the tension. But Pacino wasn't done. The calm, measured authority he exuded made it clear he would not be sidetracked. Leaning slightly forward, his piercing gaze fixed on Joy, he spoke again, this time with a tone that was both firm and commanding. "Humor is powerful," he said, each word deliberate. "It can heal, it can connect, but it can also wound. And I've learned to respect both sides of that coin." The audience stiffened. Was this merely an explanation, or was it a subtle warning? The weight behind his words left everyone unsure. Even viewers at home could feel the suspense, as if something monumental was occurring right in front of them. Pacino's mastery of timing and delivery was undeniable. Every pause, every syllable, carried the authority of decades spent commanding screens worldwide. Joy, usually quick with a comeback, opened her mouth, paused, and then closed it again. For the first time in the show's history, her trademark confidence faltered. The room was dominated by silence, a silence that spoke louder than any applause or laughter could. It wasn't anger or confrontation that had silenced her. It was a mix of sheer respect, surprise, and realization. The power dynamic in the studio had subtly shifted. Even the co-hosts whispered among themselves, unsure how to proceed. The usual camaraderie and back and forth that defined the show were replaced by a tension that was electric. It was a moment of pause, reflection, and collective astonishment. Every eye in the studio remained glued to Pacino, recognizing that they were witnessing a rare and unforgettable side of a living legend. The audience, both live and virtual, felt the weight of the moment. Social media erupted as fans tried to capture the gravity of the interaction. Memes, reaction videos, and live tweets began circulating immediately. Comments ranged from admiration for Pacino's composure to astonishment at Joy Behar's uncharacteristic silence. Analysts and critics would later call this segment a masterclass in presence, poise, and the art of communication. As the tensions stretched on, the subtle dynamics of respect and authority became even more apparent. Pacino's words, spoken with quiet power, had commanded attention without raising his voice. Joy, for all her experience and wit, had been left momentarily speechless, not by insult or aggression, but by the sheer authenticity and gravity of his presence. The cameras didn't just capture a conversation. They captured a lesson in composure, timing, and the undeniable impact of speaking truth with authority. By the time the segment began to transition, it was clear that this was no ordinary interview. The tension, which had felt ready to explode at any moment, had instead transformed into an unforgettable display of respect, presence, and unspoken power. The world watching would remember this moment as one of the rarest instances where a celebrity interview became historic not because of a scandal or controversy, but because a legend reminded everyone why he commands attention and respect, simply by being himself. Then came the moment that would be replayed, shared, and remembered for years to come. Al Pacino, already the undisputed focal point of the tense exchange, slowly rose from his seat. The weight of his presence seemed to fill every corner of the studio. Cameras zoomed in as the audience collectively held their breath, sensing that something monumental was about to happen. Every eye was glued to him. Even the production crew seemed momentarily frozen, unwilling to break the spell of the moment. Pacino stood with calm authority, his posture radiating the confidence and gravitas of decades in the entertainment industry. He didn't need to raise his voice or make grand gestures. His mere presence carried the message. In a voice steady and controlled, yet filled with quiet intensity, he said, "I came here to share my story, not to entertain someone else's narrative." The words landed like a perfectly thrown punch, not violent or angry, but precise and impossible to ignore. The room seemed to shrink around him as the full meaning of his statement sank in. He was not lashing out. He was not performing theatrics. He was setting boundaries, asserting his integrity, and doing so with the elegance and composure only a true legend could embody. Then, as if on cue, he began to leave. Not abruptly, not with a slam or storming gesture. Just a slow, deliberate walk toward the exit, his every step measured, calm, and dignified. The audience watched in awe, some rising from their seats instinctively, unsure whether to applaud, gasp, or simply remain silent. It was a graceful exit, but one that commanded attention from start to finish. Joy Behar sat frozen, visibly speechless. Her signature humor and sharp wit, which had carried her through countless interviews, failed her in that moment. She had been rendered silent, not by anger, insult, or humiliation, but by the sheer force of Pacino's presence and the clarity of his words. For the first time in her career, she had no clever retort. The live cameras continued rolling, capturing every second of her stunned reaction. The audience, meanwhile, erupted into murmurs, whispers, and occasional applause. Some were cheering in admiration, some were utterly shocked. The energy in the room was electric, the kind of energy that makes history in real time. Social media exploded within seconds. Clips of Pacino's response and his graceful exit were uploaded to TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, racking up millions of views almost instantly. Fans and critics alike shared their reactions. Pacino owned the stage without raising his voice, and Joy Behar left speechless, unreal. Commentators praised Pacino for his composure, pointing out that he had done something rare in the world of celebrity interviews. He had asserted himself, defended his dignity, and left a lasting impression, all without confrontation, theatrics, or anger. Critics called it one of the most unexpected, powerful, and iconic moments in daytime television history. Meanwhile, fans celebrated his quiet authority, sharing clips, screenshots, and commentary across platforms. For Joy Behar, the moment was humbling. It was a reminder that even in the world of television, where humor and quick comebacks often dominate, there are instances where the quietest, most composed actions speak the loudest. Her witty remarks were temporarily forgotten. The conversation had shifted entirely to Pacino's side, and the room had collectively acknowledged the power of authenticity, integrity, and presence. As Pacino disappeared from the stage, the studio seemed to exhale, the tension slowly dissipating but leaving behind a sense of awe. This wasn't merely a celebrity exit. It was a statement, a lesson, and a historic moment rolled into one. In those few minutes, Al Pacino reminded the world why he isn't just a Hollywood icon, but a master of presence and influence, a man whose every word and movement leaves a lasting impact. It was the kind of moment that viewers would replay endlessly, that would dominate headlines, and that would be referenced for years to come. And as the cameras continued to roll, capturing Joy Behar's stunned expression and the murmurs of the live audience, one thing was undeniable. Al Pacino had exited with grace, authority, and a lesson in how a true legend commands respect without uttering a single harsh word. The fallout from that unforgettable moment was immediate and nothing short of explosive. Within minutes of the segment ending, news outlets across the globe ran headlines like, "Al Pacino leaves Joy Behar speechless," and "Hollywood legend stands tall against humor that cuts too deep." Television critics dissected the encounter, social media erupted with debates, and fans everywhere shared clips, screenshots, and reactions. It wasn't long before the moment became a trending topic on every platform, from Twitter and TikTok to Instagram and YouTube. Viewers were divided. Some defended Joy Behar, praising her humor and arguing that the comment was simply intended in jest. Others applauded Pacino's poise, calling it a masterclass in presence, composure, and respect. Yet amidst the heated discussion, one thing became clear. This was no ordinary television moment. It transcended comedy and celebrity banter. It had become a lesson in boundaries, authenticity, and the weight of words. Pacino's response wasn't about winning an argument or scoring points. It was about standing firmly in truth and integrity. In interviews following the event, he maintained his trademark humility, explaining, "I respect everyone's voice, but sometimes you have to speak your truth, even if it leaves people silent." That simple statement resonated far beyond the studio. Fans and aspiring actors alike reflected on the power of presence, the art of measured speech, and the importance of knowing when to assert oneself with dignity rather than aggression. For Joy Behar, the aftermath was a rare and humbling experience. A host known for her quick wit and clever comebacks had encountered someone who could match her energy without resorting to confrontation or anger. It was a moment of genuine reflection, a reminder that sometimes humor meets its match not in sarcasm or critique, but in sheer gravitas and authenticity. Her usual repertoire of jokes and jabs was temporarily silenced, a testament to the quiet authority Pacino wielded with every word and gesture. Meanwhile, social media amplified the impact in real time. Clips of Pacino's measured responses and his graceful exit circulated worldwide, racking up millions of views in a matter of hours. Memes and reaction videos flooded timelines, with fans praising his ability to command respect without raising his voice. Analysts called it one of the most compelling moments in daytime television history, noting how a few calm, deliberate words could overshadow the usual chaos of live TV. Beyond the internet frenzy, this moment sparked conversations about more profound themes. Commentators and viewers reflected on the importance of integrity, the balance between humor and respect, and how one's words can leave a lasting impression. Pacino had turned a simple interview into an enduring lesson on human interaction, showing that true power often lies not in aggression, but in clarity, honesty, and presence. For audiences worldwide, it was a rare spectacle, a live television moment that combined tension, wit, gravitas, and emotional resonance. It wasn't just entertainment, it was history in the making. Pacino walked away without shouting, without confrontation, yet left an indelible mark on everyone watching. The clash of humor and gravitas ended not with conflict, but with respect. And so, the memory of that day remains etched in the minds of viewers everywhere. A Hollywood icon demonstrated the power of speaking truth with composure, leaving one of television's most experienced hosts genuinely speechless. It was a reminder that sometimes silence speaks louder than words, and that presence, dignity, and authenticity will always outshine theatrics. In the end, this was more than a TV segment. It was a historic lesson in courage, restraint, and mastery, a moment that would be replayed, analyzed, and admired for years to come. For Joy, for viewers, and for the world, it was a reminder of why Al Pacino isn't just a star, but a legend, and why some moments on live TV are truly unforgettable.